Welcome back to Basic Bananas Radio, where we share tried and tested ways to grow your brand and get more customers. Everything from the latest in marketing and branding, right through to growing your team and creating an irresistible culture.
Hi there and welcome back to Basic Bananas Radio. Today I've got Kevin Beast joining us again for an amazing AI update. And wow, there are so many awesome tools that he's sharing with us in this episode. I can't wait for you to hear them and implement them and let us know how you go, because this is such an exciting space to be in and to explore and to learn and grow and to get the most out of this time that we live in. I'm so excited for you. So let's jump straight in. Enjoy, and I can't wait to get your feedback on this. Hello and welcome back to Basic Bananas Radio. We have a little special session for you here today with one of my favorites, Kevin Bees. Hi, Kevin.
It's so great to be here with you again. Thank you, Franziska.
Kevin and I have been running these regular AI updates with our members. So we've been running masterclasses for our members here at Basic Bananas. And we decided to bring an update to you here on the podcast because obviously AI is everywhere. We can't ignore it. There are so many great tools out there. And Kevin is going to give you a little snapshot, a little update today, and then we will make this a regular for you too. So we might come back every few weeks, every few months to give you the latest and the greatest because this space is moving so fast. So Kevin, I might just pass it over to you.
Yeah, and it really is moving so fast. The amount of additional tools we see coming on the marketplace every week is staggering. I remember, Franziska, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, I read this book by Mo Godot. It's called Scary Smart. And he speaks about how quickly AI is growing. And I don't think we can quite comprehend it. We kind of think of things as being like linear, but this is something that's like exponential. It's going very rapidly. And so one of the things that he was talking about is that, AI will, at some point in the next few years, he said by 2029, but we're thinking maybe a little bit sooner than that, AI is going to be as smart as the smartest human on the planet. Now, that's a good thing. Like, it's already passing like the Turing test. But just for context, he says by 2049, AI is going to be so much smarter than us. Like, the equivalent will be that, AI's brain is like that of Einstein and ours is that of like a fly. Right. So it's here, it's coming, and it's just going to get better and better from where it is. And one of the important things I don't think a lot of business owners always, cotton onto is the idea that there's like two types of change. There's like a cyclical change where things go around, and around. So like, summer, winter, spring, autumn goes around. And then there's structural change. And structure is like once it's changed, it's not going back. It's kind of like when we first had the internet. People were saying, "Oh, this is a fad. This will never stay around." Like, it's here to stay, right? And we first have crypto. People are still in denial about, "Hey, crypto's not going to stay. It's here. It's in. It's like it's structural. It's going to change. It's not going back." And same with AI. It's here now. We can kind of ignore it and bury our head in the sand and think I'll get to it later. But actually, it's if you do that, you're doing yourself a mischief because it's here. It's set to stay. So we need to start embracing it.
I agree. And I always do think about, what's the impact of AI? And of course, there's a lot of doom and gloom around it too. And I understand people's fears. I understand that people are worried about their jobs. And then there's also this, view of, well, it's not really that AI is taking away your jobs. It's the people with AI. And this is somebody else's quote. I didn't come up with that. And there's the whole doom and gloom about, well, where is this heading? Because if AI is going to be smarter than the smartest human, which I think it's way before 2029, what power does it have over us? And when is it going to stop? And so, even though there's this doom and gloom, as you say, it's undeniable. We have to use these tools because they help us to be more efficient in business. We all struggle with time as business owners. So how can we leverage these tools? They're not going away, as you say. How can we leverage them and have a positive impact? And, we talked about also last week how you can use these tools to make a positive impact. And I shared this example where my stepdaughter last weekend, she was here and she said, "Hey, can I do a beach cleanup? Can I organize a beach cleanup? And you sponsor me with Ocean Lovers with some prizes." I said, "Yes, please, go ahead." So she's 11. She went onto ChatGPT on my computer and she came up with a name for the beach cleanup. Then she jumped over into Canva, whipped up a flyer, and organized the whole thing within maybe less than an hour. And I know your kids are very good at using these tools with your guidance to create little side businesses and making a positive impact for other kids. So we can't deny these tools, and it's better if we use them and we use them as a force for good. So that's all I wanted to add as we kick off.
Very, very good thing to add as a kickoff, and it's quite inspiring. Like you think the younger generation they're growing up with this. They're not having to learn it. It's here, is what they expect. My kids now, they don't say. We've always said, well, we say always. We've kind of for the last 2 decades said, hey, let's Google that. They're like, Daddy, let's chat GPT
Yeah.
that, because they know they're going to go there, they're going to get the answer, and chat GPT is going to address them, not just feed them back some text. They're going to feed back the answer. They'll talk to them. They'll give them the answer in a way that's appropriate for their age group, and they can dialogue, they can go backwards and forwards, and it's phenomenal. And yeah, you said that as an example. My kids are 6 and 8 now, but a year or so ago, we were playing around with one of the tools, Midjourney, just about making images, and we're just doing it for fun, just like, hey, what if we can make this? What if we make this? And in the end, they had so many that we used ChatGPT to help us write a story to go with the pictures, and they put a book out now, and at age 5 and 7, they'd sold books internationally, three
On
different
Amazon,
countries.
yeah.
3 or 4
Yeah.
different countries. Like is phenomenal. So I think as a kid, like we never had access to anything like that. But now how much is that opening up the marketplace, for people and the opportunities, and how quickly can we iterate and do those things? You imagine if they had to draw every one of those images and write every one of those words, it would take a lot longer. So yeah, it's there's a big opportunity here, and I think the big promise I like to make people when they come through like the courses, where we teach this stuff, is that when you properly integrate AI, is going to make you more profitable, more productive, more powerful. And so what it really means for you as a business owner is, you can get more time back, you can get more money in your pocket, but more importantly, you could be more impactful as a leader. So there's definitely a lot in there of benefits. And you mentioned like the doom and gloom. I think it's probably good for us to focus on mindset. I'm very much about human behavior. And I think if we don't get our mindset right on this, we're probably going to keep resisting it and ignoring it and feeling overwhelmed by it. But I'd like you all to imagine that, you have a team that doesn't ever sleep, doesn't get sick, doesn't get upset or avoid the tasks, can consistently follow up. And in many cases, it's free or inexpensive, because that's really what's on offer here when we do this in the right way. So there's a lot of upside. And here's the interesting thing, like, the debate in the industry is who is going to be the first one person business to make $1 billion business. And they believe with AI that's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen fairly soon. The conversation 6 months ago was, they expected it to be a 3-person $1 billion business, but now it's like, hey, who's going to be the first 1-person $1 billion business? Like, would you like that to be you? Would that be an experience you'd like to have?
I'm not that fussed about being that person, but I do think that it is going to happen very soon,
Yeah,
possibly in the next year, next 12
yeah.
months.
Well, and I'm not surprised. You're about community and people, so that's good. And there's some people there saying, yes, I'd love to be the 1-person $1 billion business and not have to deal with others, just have the AIs doing everything for me. And I think on a mindset perspective, and we'll get into some tools and techniques soon, but I think from a mindset, I want to be thinking about how do we think about AI? Because the idea I want to share is like words really have meaning. All right. And we get this because, if I said, oh no, he stabbed me in the back, or he's a snake, or she's a cougar, like we all know that those metaphors already mean something to us. And so when we call artificial intelligence artificial, I know technically that means human made, but if I was to, talk to you about something in life that's artificial, if I said to you, hey, Franziska, what does artificial mean? Like, what does it actually mean? Like, what is artificial? So if and I just go for those of you watching on the screen, if I put up a bunch of artificial flowers, what does artificial normally mean?
And just for the listeners here, so we actually can't see your slides just yet, Kevin. And for anyone who is watching this on YouTube, you will be able to see some slides. Anyone who is listening this as an audio version, you are able to still follow along. So don't worry about it. And if you would like to see the slides, just jump over onto YouTube and look for Basic Bananas TV, and you will find this episode there.
Great. Hopefully you can see my slides now as well. Yeah, good. Hey, and so artificial, particularly artificial flowers, it normally means like something's fake or, you can't really trust it. It's not quite real. And I think that word really creates a bit of a separateness, and I just want to, for us as a group of business owners, I think it's really important that we see AI as more than that. Like AI isn't separate from us, is based on our human data, is learning from us every day, like is embedded in, all of our systems, is adapting to our decisions and is learning from us and our clients. So I think the words we use, like you calling it artificial, I don't know if that really serves us in the right way. I think it's like some evolving intelligence. I think calling it artificial is kind of like trying to call Tesla, a horse-drawn carriage. It's way more than that, right? So we've got to make sure that we are not kind of being outdated in the way that we're looking at these things. And the important thing in this is that, I want you to start seeing yourself as being integrated with AI, not separate. It's not a separate thing from you. It's something you want to integrate with, because when you are shaping it, every time you prompt it and you teach it, like it's learning from you. And so it's really becoming part of your business brain, like expanded. And so the more intentionality you put into it and how you use it, the more value it's going to create. The more you think of it as being part of you, the more it's going to be able to scale and be part of your business and your systems. So you're going to lead it well, and have responsibility around that. The other thing I would say on the mindset as well, a lot of people get sucked into just seeing it as a tool, and the first question is, which app should we use, which tool should we try? And I think if we stay stuck there, we risk missing a bit of a point, right? AI isn't here to help you do what you've always done a little better or a little faster. It's actually here to help you do what wasn't even possible before, right? What wasn't even possible before. So it's open up all possibilities for you beyond what you can currently see right now. And I think that's how you need to think about it. Think of it as not just, hey, what tools can I use to make what I do now better, but how can I use this to do even more than I did before? And I think from that mindset, Franziska, from that space, is going to open up a lot more possibilities for everyone. And I think before we get into any of like the tools, I think that was a really important grounding to set.
So important, because I'm still seeing a lot of resistance. Even some of our members here in the Clever Bunch still have resistance. And I think this is such a beautiful way to reframe it.
Yeah, and look, the resistance is real, and I want to draw up on the point that you said just now, which is, that AI won't replace you, but someone using AI will. And I think that's partially true, but I also want to call BS on part of it as well, because there's all of these jobs right now that people can't do anymore, like admin, customer service, copywriting, data analysis, transcription, programming, even parts of accounting and law, like they're gone. Our friend Bill Gates, who's pretty good at predicting where things are going in technology, he's even saying like 86,000 medical jobs will be at risk by 2036. Right now, we would have thought that the medical jobs would have been the ones that were safe. And so it's understandable that people have some nervousness around it. But I want to give you a little bit of context about where your job or your role may sit in that. And I built this matrix. And the matrix really breaks down types of work that we do between, is it high repetition or low repetition, right? The more repetitious it is, the easier it is going to be for us to put into a bot, right? If it's low repetition, much harder. And then in the range of either low creativity or high creativity, okay? If it's highly creative, a little bit harder for us to give AI, but low creativity, much easier for us to package it for AI. So anyone who's in a position where they, have a role which is high repetition and low creativity, that's like the extinction zone. So if you happen to have a job that's highly repetitious and doesn't need much creativity, it's not going to be around for long. And we're going to want to be considering what else do we retrain you or reskill you in. And this will be people who have data entry clerks, retail checkout staff, call center agents, order processors, anything repetitive documentation, funding claims, etc. So we want to consider that, like, if that's you, then we want to be building you a new skill set and maybe leveraging AI for that to get you into one of the other areas. Now, if you happen to have something that's like a highly creative role, okay, and high repetition, this is where a lot of like the human facing emotion intelligent roles currently sit. Like if you're in that area, you're doing really important hands-on work. It requires a lot of empathy, trust, and real human presence. But the problem with those roles is a lot of your days are weighed down by repetitive admin tasks and compliance and documentation, right? So what we want to be doing if you're in one of those areas, we've got to adapt and start getting those bits that aren't like the human facing emotion intelligence stuff, all of the admin stuff, we got to get that into AI. We have to find a way to get that off your plate. So you can do more of the emotion intelligence stuff that you do that is harder for the AI to do. Now, this would include roles like anyone in allied health. So physios, OTs, exercise physiologists, teachers, tutors, financial advisors, mortgage brokers, HR professionals, potentially salespeople, in trust-based selling roles. So we want to adapt and make sure that you're doing the human piece and we're getting all of the admin off of you. The other one in this matrix then, if we looked at the other side, is if you have low repetition and low creativity, this is where we have things like designers, video editors, digital marketers, social media managers, copywriters, VAs, bookkeepers, SEO specialists. There's a big opportunity here. Like your work isn't fully repetitive, but it does follow predictable patterns. And it makes it really ripe for AI acceleration. I was training people this week on AI, and one of the members came back to me and said, "Oh, Kevin, I used ChatGPT with the prompts that we did, and I wrote new coding for my website. We were able to implement it. Like, I don't think web designers are going to have work for much longer." And it's interesting that he's already seeing that he's not a technical person, but he could very quickly start, getting coding made for him to improve things on his website. So if you're in those areas, we're going to need to lean into AI to really start automating a lot of things for you, getting you into the more of the high value part of your role and getting other things off your plate. And then finally, and this is perhaps where this quote really is true, Franziska, this evolution zone. If you're in a high creativity, low repetition role, is it much harder for AI to replace you in there? And that's where your quote comes in, because people using AI will. So if you're not embracing it, you're going to get other, senior leaders or advisors, people just actually using AI to really get ahead there. So I think if that gives you some context about, where your role sits and, how urgently you need to use AI, but I think in every area, you're going to benefit from engaging it. So yeah, hopefully that overview helps and provides some good context.
Yeah, super helpful and really interesting. I am curious, you say, and maybe you didn't mean to, in the low creativity, low repetition designers, for example, I wonder if they belong more into the high creativity
Well,
part.
and I guess it depends on which part of the design that they're doing, right? If they are highly creative design, then of course, then maybe they do get across as the high creativity, right? But it depends on which part. If there's something repetitious in that process, if I can teach the AI how you do that and how you come up with it, then great. And you think about design, I'll just flip on to this next slide because I needed like design for an ebook cover, right? And I had my team member, Regina, do a wonderful job, came up with some great designs for me. It wasn't quite right. It wasn't quite there. And I jumped onto ChatGPT and we iterated a few times and it came up with this. Now, I don't think it's going to win an award for the best design in the world, but actually for something that I needed to get done, in 10 minutes, why would I go on to, a platform like Upwork or Fiverr and pay people the money on there to design it when I can get something that's pretty good from the system already?
Yeah, and well, first of all, back to the matrix because I think it's so helpful, and anyone who is listening, if you want to go back to the video to see the matrix visually, this is a really cool way to also look at your business and see where you are with your business in particular, and now what do you need to pay attention to. When it comes to the next, point here with the book design, I think because I come from a creative background, I personally would want someone who is really good at this to make this much better.
Yes,
But this is
I
again,
agree.
this is the visual here versus the super practical you
Yeah.
and the logical. So the super visual here is like, no, this needs to be, enhanced by probably a human or a different prompt. I would say, the really, and this is at the moment, I do still believe the really good designers, for example, so the people at their top, they're still going to be better at this than AI. However, they can use AI to what you did to do the first draft, to do some layouts, to see, hey,
Yeah.
what's kind of cool, and then they can iterate it.
Well, that's great. And I totally agree with you. I pre-frame this by I don't think this is the best in the world, but Whereas in the past, I might have had to wait 2 or 3 days, for
Yeah.
someone on one of those platforms or designers to come backwards and forwards and do it with me. Well, I can iterate pretty quickly and get something close
Yeah.
enough. Now, this is a cover for a free ebook that I'm gifting to people. I could make it look way better, but actually it does the job, right? It gets done what it needs to get done. Now, your point about a designer, human designer will do better. Yes, I totally agree for now, right? Let's go back to that point about how quickly this is iterating and growing.
Yeah.
3 months ago, 4 months ago, ChatGPT and some of the other tools weren't very good at putting words on these things, but now they're here. And so what happens
Totally.
when it does get more nuanced? Now, I could go in there if I spent more time on it, I could go in there and actually highlight certain areas and ask it to change certain things for me on this cover. So yes, there are human designers who would do a better job and make it look appealing, but in the medium to longer term, maybe not. Maybe AI can take over that. And the book, and for anyone watching, you feel free to scan the QR code there as well, because I've outlined in more detail in this book about how AI is going to be disrupting your business, and whether how you would need to evolve and what area you're in, and whether it's urgent for you right now and what you need to do. So if you want to get a copy of that, like, feel free. I put it together as a really good resource. But yeah, Francisco, highly
That'd be
visual.
great.
You wouldn't you don't like my book. I get you don't
No.
like my cover. We'll have to
No.
get someone else to do it.
Someone else might. I think, yeah, it's incredibly busy. However, the point is that you did use AI and it took you 30 seconds or maybe a little bit more to whip this up, and you didn't have to wait. For anyone, just on a different point, this is a really good ebook. So for anyone here who is listening, we'll pop the link, because you can't see the QR code to scan, we'll pop the link also into the show notes so you can still grab the book for free.
Yeah, awesome. You're on it. And so let's talk a little bit more then about why you need to take action now. I'm speaking about the mindset and why you need to get into it, but like over half of the world's businesses are already exploring and implementing AI. Okay. And so it's really critical time for us to start adopting this. Now, the businesses that we're working with, we're noticing that those that are adopting AI are growing at shockingly fast rates. We're estimating around 37% faster growth in those businesses who are adopting AI versus those that aren't. Now, the interesting thing is that only 2% of those businesses are really implementing at the rate that they need to serve their market. So even if you've been dabbling with AI, are you doing it enough to be able to serve your market? Now, the question I have for you is like, most businesses are really falling behind. Like, is yours falling behind? Now, one of the questions I get frequently, Francisca, is why are business owners, being very slow to implement AI? Why are they taking their time? And one of the main reasons I'm seeing, and I felt this myself, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening will, is they feel overwhelmed by AI. And it's hardly surprising. Like back in November, I went onto a site. There's a site called There Is an AI for That. And it summarizes how many AI tools there are. And so back in November, there were 17,000 different AIs. I updated this maybe a month ago, and there's already 31,000, right? So within a period of 4 to 5 months, those number of tools have grown, and it will keep growing because more and more people are going to put their wrappers and their layers around, the large language models. And so, yeah, it's hardly surprising if you feel overwhelmed. A lot of people are slow to adapt to it as well because they got really no real idea of what's possible. They can't quite see what can be done yet. It's new, so they're not very clear of what can happen. A lot of people are scared of the systemic impact. Hey, like if I do this, like how is it going to impact my people, my team? How is it going to impact, my customers? And they're particularly resistant to reducing human experience. And back to your point, if I worked with a human designer, it would have been a much more enjoyable process. We would have probably come to something much closer to what I needed. So we're resistant to, impacting people and taking their jobs away, which I understand. And often the the final point on this is that change can often feel really effortful and really expensive. But I think the important piece here is this isn't something that we can really, afford to dodge. Now, out of those, I'd love for you to reflect on, what's holding you back the most, right now from jumping onto AI and implementing AI. Now, I know, Francisco, we were talking about tools that you use at the beginning of the call as well. So, like, do you ever feel blocked or slow with the implementation on AI, or do you feel as though like, hey, you're all in?
No, I mean, I'm all in, but I'm definitely also the first point that you made, which is overwhelmed. So, the tool that I use every single day, including for parenting tips, is ChatGPT, and I think this is just, as you said, with your kids, it's now, hey, let's ChatGPT this, not let's Google it. So just making it a practice to use AI. In my case, I use ChatGPT and I built my own agents. You and I ran a session on how to do that too for our members. So that is like for me now just a given. However, there are so many other tools. So when I want to build something or when I want to automate parts of our business, then I'm like, well, but there are like, 31,000 tools. Which one? So that's definitely a challenge, I would say.
Well, and the important piece is we don't need to learn all of those tools, right? If we can understand the fundamentals and the foundations of how to interact with these tools, if I can teach you, how to actually write a good prompt and how to get the output that you want, how to get those AI tools to adhere to what you're requesting of it. Once you learn that, then you can apply that to any one of those tools. Now, I'm fortunate enough to be tapped into a team of 7 AI researchers all across the planet. And we've got people in US and Finland and Thailand and Switzerland and Israel. And they've gone through a lot of these tools and they've identified to me which are the most important ones, which are the most impactful ones. So for the people in my in the programs that we run, we get to show them, well, which ones are the most impactful. So rather than having to go through all 31,000, you can just find out which are the ones that are most important for you. Now, I know we're on a marketing podcast and a marketing conversation today. So if it works, we can jump ahead and, have a conversation around, some specific marketing tools that you could probably start looking at and start using now.
I would love that. Yeah, I would love if you can share some of your favorite tools, and then we can maybe also share a little bit about the 12-week boot camp
Yeah,
that
awesome.
we're running too.
Yeah, I would love to. I want you to think about AI in 5 different ways, and then we'll jump into the tools. Like one of the main ways we can do it is conversational AIs and chatbots, large language models, which you've already mentioned, ChatGPT being one of those, media and content production, super important. If you're in a business, you need to be, a media business, you need to be sharing, information, and personalization. Personalization is so exciting. So now rather than blasting everyone with the same thing, we're going to have the ability to start communicating with that person in the way that they want, that would be most persuasive to them. I was interviewing a gentleman who's built a platform, Omnikey, and is about advertising. So right now, if I go to your website, I just get your website. But if I use a tool like that, it will know my preferences. It will be able to tailor that website in a way that's most suitable to me, to my needs, my filters, and be most persuasive. And I think that's kind of crazy. So we talk about personalization and then also automating complex workflows. Let's jump in with the conversational AIs and chatbots, because there are tools like Gorgeous, and it helps you automate some of your customer support. Okay, so this one's specifically for e-commerce businesses, but it will centralize your email, your live chat, your social media messages like into one single help desk, and it can integrate with platforms like Shopify and Magento and BigCommerce. And other tools then like Forethought. So Forethought helps reduce ticketing volume by 87%. Okay, and that means any customer service issues or questions or queries can be just be dropped. How much would you love to drop your customer service issues by 87%? We've also got tools like Trade Tech. Okay, so it's like a sales co-pilot. Now, I've not used this particular tool myself, but I've got a client in the US who's used a very similar tool, and basically what it does, it gives the AI a list of phone numbers of warm leads. Okay, so these people, they haven't managed to get on a call yet. So they gave the AI the challenge to go and message those people and get them to book in for a call, right? So a bit of a hybrid approach. The AI texts and emails people and they get them to call with a human. And what they found is that this AI was doing such a great job with texting backwards and forwards that when the customers got on the phone, they wanted to speak with, whoever the AI was. Like the AI called itself Sarah, I think. And they were like, hey, I want to speak to Sarah. Well, Sarah wasn't real, right? It was just the AI. The AI did something very unique as well. At some point during the conversation, the prospects switched their language from English to Spanish, and AI, without missing a blink, just was able to do that. Now, I know I wouldn't be able to do that, and depending on your team member, you wouldn't be able to as well. So there are tools like that can probably be nurturing your messages. As marketers, ManyChat may be one that you're familiar with. Really great tool if you want to have automatic responses in your Facebook Messenger and on your Instagram and through WhatsApp. So if someone leaves a comment on your post, the ManyChat is already pre-programmed to give them what whatever it is that they've asked for. So the way you would use this is you would write something like, hey, I've just made this amazing report, on how to do X, Y, Z. Would you like a copy? Just, type yes below. And as soon as you type yes, of course, the ManyChat is going to give you what you need. So ManyChat is a really, really good one. One thing that's really fascinating to me, Franziska, is avatars. Avatars are being pretty powerful. I've got some images on the screen here and these look like real people, but they're all avatars. And I'm going to share with you just a quick demo. This is one of my clients out of the US, and I'm just going to play it for you quickly. And let me just make sure I've got the audio on, otherwise you won't hear it. Probably have to edit that bit out a second, share. So yeah, so here's an example of an avatar.
Hi, this is Alessia Minkus. Artificial intelligence has completely revolutionized the world. In fact, I'm not actually Alessia Minkus. I'm a clone of Alessia Minkus.
Now, that's a complete clone, okay? And it sounds like her, looks like her, and it's only the fact that it tells you that it's it's a clone that So yeah, and the ability to start building these, you're going to see here on this thing. So this is MetaHuman, high fidelity humans. So you will be able to see, this how we can change the facial features of this guy. We can give him a mustache, make his chin bigger, smaller, change his color, change his complexion. And so we're going to have the ability to build these avatars to look exactly as we like. Now, how cool is that?
It's so crazy. It's just also a little bit, scary, obviously. It's unbelievable. What's this website called? MetaHuman?
So yeah, this is MetaHuman. And so now some of the avatar platforms, HeyGen is one that myself and my team have been using, and it's powerful. I've been working with a group of insolvency agents. Okay, now they're busy people. They don't have time to be producing media and content. We get them to record a short video in a good quality background, 2 minutes, and then we can take that. We can train HeyGen, and then HeyGen, all we need to do is feed it their blog scripts, and then they have more content. Feed it blog scripts, and so of course we can then produce a lot of content with AI avatars that they just wouldn't have had time to sit down and be in front of the camera for. So that's super powerful. HeyGen is one. Synthesia is another one that's probably worthwhile taking a look at. So these are some of the avatars and things we can do. I'm not going to labor on anything on large language models. I think that's the one people are most familiar with. So we've got Chat GPT, of course. We've got Microsoft Copilot, which is Chat GPT behind it. We've got Gemini, which is Google's tool, which is, if you're using any of the Google suite, you'll realize that it's doing some amazing stuff in there. I've had it helping me reply to emails. I've had it, just read an email and set up a calendar and put a calendar appointment in. It's doing some amazing things with spreadsheets, tools like Claude. And then we've got aggregators like Poe. Now, Poe is interesting from the perspective that it will give you access to all of the large language models. So rather than using just like one, picking one like ChatGPT or picking like Gemini or picking Microsoft Copilot, you can have Poe, and you can then tell Poe, hey, here's my query. Today I want you to put it through ChatGPT, or today I want you to put it through, and you can pick and choose which of the models that you want. So it's very interesting, things like aggregators as well. Now, Franziska, I got a heap of media content to go through as well, and I just want to be mindful of your time. Do you have time for me to go through that as well, or do we need to make another episode?
Let's go through it, and then we will do another episode to go into more detail.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, cool. Then let's talk about media content then. Tools like Jasper can be very powerful for you to write content. So if you're not particularly a copywriter, then Jasper can help you, write things in the tone of voice that you want and help you make amazing content. We also have tools like Midjourney. So Midjourney is really great, for images. If you need images in your business, then it's a really great tool to use, and you can, make them photorealistic. You make them very creative. I mentioned before about my daughters. This is where it started. They made this cute creature here. I think they called it a fluffleberry or something like that. Now, this thing looks so real. When I put it up on social media, a year and a half ago, people said, hey, I want one. Where do I get one? And I had to fess up, of course, it's just AI. But of course, the kids made, cute creature after cute creature, just whatever was in their imagination, one that looks like a volcano, one that looks like a banana, and so up it comes. And so hence there was their book that went across, across the different countries. Now we can't retire on that book yet, but it's pretty cool.
I do want to quickly share the title too. So if you can go one slide back. So Kevin's kids, as he said, 6 and 8, they were 7 and
5 and 7, yeah.
5 then. Yeah, so they got a book on Amazon called The Cutest Creatures of the Planet Puffaloria by the Bee Sister. Sisters. So if you want to check it out, I bought one and it's super cute.
Thank you. Hey, the cool thing about this is they're entrepreneurial. They decided they wanted to do an orange juice stand, so we help them juice the oranges, set up the table, set up their ability to take payment on the phone, which is like, it blows my mind that we couldn't do that when we were kids, but they can. People say, oh, I've only got card, and they go, don't worry, use my mobile phone. But the cool thing was they got people to come and buy the orange juice for $3, right, a cup, whatever it was, and then, of course, their books sat next to it. Now, the book, a printed copy of the book, I don't know what it was, $20 something, $25, and so then that's their upsell. They bring people in for $3 of juice, and then they, their AI made book, and of course the people are made up. Like these two little kids made this thing, and so it's it's combining your AI with your offline business as well is really great. And going back to branding and design. And I think we made this one is an example. I made this live in one of the sessions that we were presenting, Franziska, together, you and I.
Yes.
We decided to make a brand of hot sauce. And we said, hey, I want this. Here's the type of logo that I want. And it kind of made something in that style. And they said, hey, I like the first one. And then we could iterate and get rid of some of the spellings that we didn't like, and then make it look hotter and make it look hotter. And
it actually did an okay job. I have to give you that.
Well, as a first draft. And again, if we come back to, having a real designer, a real designer would probably do a better job. But for iterations, to come up with ideas before I go to a designer and say, hey, well, here's the kind of thing that I like. This is what I want. It's really awesome. Now, that took us, we did a demo and it took us 10, 15 minutes. And we came up with something that looks reasonably good. But here's the other things with tools like Midjourney. If you need to do things like this, this woman is wearing a Nike sweater on, one side, and hey, let's change it to a dress, like done. Or, hey, I've got a man in this picture, let's turn it make it a woman. And I had, when we were doing another presentation, I asked AI, to make me an image of a robot teaching a room full of business owners. And embarrassingly, because of its bias, all the business owners were male. And so I could highlight one section and just say female, and all of a sudden it just changed that to female. So the ability that we've got to tweak and change these things, like here's for a designer, look at this is a room with no window and no view. And then all of a sudden we can click it, and then there's a view there, the wall's gone. We got a view of, I don't know where that is, somewhere in the Mediterranean.
I think
nice
Santorini,
plant.
possibly, yeah.
Santorini. Done. And we could be as specific as, hey, look, on this motorbike, let's make the light brighter. Let's hone in on that region. So we're getting more and more ability to improve specific features in these tools. Change backgrounds, yeah, no problems, done. Get too many fingers in your image because AI's made one too many, highlight it, is done. So things like Midjourney. If we're going down the image route, things like addcreative.ai. I think you may have told me about this one originally, Franziska. We have a mutual friend who's a growth hacker, and his job is to help grow businesses, and he does a lot of ads for businesses. And he told me that what he's getting out of addcreative.ai for image ads is getting better conversion, better results than he would do for himself. And this is a guy who spent decades in this area, and people go to him, and he said addcreative.ai is helping better with image ads. The other one that he's using for image ads is ideogram. Okay, now with ideogram, he's able to tell them, hey, he's a travel business he's got. So he said, hey, I want a couple, in the Maldives, right? And it can be a specific, hey, the man's wearing a white shirt, the skies are amazing. And of course, here's the image. I would think that was real people. I'd have no idea. And it looks like a very enticing destination to go to. Here's another couple of examples. In this one is quite amusing. He told them, make a picture of a couple on the island in the Maldives, and look how small the island is. They'll probably get swallowed up by the water in 10 seconds. But how cool is this, like good quality image ads? And so this perhaps back to your point about designer, Franziska. So designer would probably do a better job, but if he was doing this quickly and efficiently, this would probably be great. This would probably be enough for him to go and convert people through ads.
Yeah, and a designer can use these tools to be quicker, more efficient, and do a better job.
Exactly. And so they can use it, and actually they should be incorporating it in their work. We've also got tools like Deep Brain. .io. So Deep Brain, very good for, more avatars, more voiceovers for multimedia content, multimedia elements. So you can input text or scripts and transform professional to professional grade videos. I'll give you another example. Like here's Runway. So Runway, you can, give it text and it will turn out, or you can give an image and it will turn it into a video. Okay. And so here's an example. I said, hey, two professionals shaking hands in a downtown scene. And you can see they're shaking hands and there's things going on in the background. Now, it's not perfect yet. It looks a little bit glitchy because that cargo is a bit weird, but you see how quick it is to do that. I think it's just going to get better and better. And I know you're going to have to run very shortly, Francis. So I just want to squeeze one more thing in before we have to finish this episode. So VO2, which is a Google tool, right? You can see that you can ask it, for things you want. I mean, here we've got an image of a dog swimming in a pool, or we've got, a cartoon type character speaking, right? But I want you to get a feel for what's really possible. Let me show you this next one on VO2.
Everything you're seeing on the screen is completely AI generated. There are no actors, there's no set, there's no movie production company. Everything is made using AI. No special effects of it. And it's all using one AI tool to generate movie trailers that beat Hollywood now.
How insane is that?
That is really insane. Is that the VO2 or that's a different tool?
No, that's VO2.
Wow, that's
VO2. Like,
incredible.
isn't it phenomenal what you can do? And that you'd have no idea. Like, you'd expect for them to get, that car driving down the street, multiple angles, person in a car. You would think that would have to be real life, but it's not. It's created inside of AI. I was talking about with one of my other podcast interviews recently. A guy's talking about, hey, well, let's think about how we get to the stage of AI and VR. Right. So right now we go and download a movie, but what if you can put VR goggles on and the movie or the experience is created in real time, with you? Like that's probably where things are going in the next decade or so.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a million more things that I could probably be sharing with you on this presentation, but I know, Franziska, you've got a hard stop that we need to get you off to. So perhaps I come back and do the rest
Yeah.
later. I could probably talk for another another few days on this, so we can do
Yes,
another one.
I know you do, and we do. What we will do is we might make this a quarterly update, at least a quarterly update for you listeners, because Kevin has so much to share. And the other thing I do want to quickly share, if you don't mind, Kevin, is that we've also got a boot camp, the 12-week boot camp running. So if you are able to share a bit about that, and then lastly, of course, also our members in the Clever Bunch, if you want to apply for that, we share, Kevin and I and Crystal share these AI tools also in our annual program. But for now, maybe if you want to share a little bit about the boot camp, that would be awesome.
Yeah, awesome. So I run a 12-week course that will give you the tools and knowledge you need. So today I've kind of given like a bit of an overview, but we build the foundations, making sure you really understand how to use AI to get the outputs that you want quicker, easier. And because I'm tapped into a team of researchers, we're bringing you like the tools that are going to give you the biggest impact in the shortest time frame without you having to go and search them all. Now, I charge $4.97 for that, but I have an offer I would probably extend to the Basic Bananas community. I had this as the early bird offer, which is expired now, but I would open that up for Basic Bananas since I love you guys so much. So around the $4.97, we could do it for $2.97. If that's interesting to you, then we can click on the link or scan the QR code if you're on this video. Yeah, and I'd love to be able to serve you and support you with that. And now we've got a great community of people coming together. The awesome thing about it is I'm sharing how to implement these tools and use them. But what I'm loving is that as people go away and implement it, there's so many different ways that people can implement it. And I'm feeling excited when they come back and say, hey, I did this, isn't this cool? And I did this, isn't this cool? And now they're just so empowered. Like I mentioned that gentleman before, like before he he was reliant on his web designer and it would take, days or weeks to get something done. He wrote the code, implemented it on his website, like done. So some of these things are just super empowering. So yeah, if you want to come along, I would love to be connected with you and help you in this area.
So great. Really appreciate that. And also that offer. We will also post a link. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can scan the code. And if you're listening, we'll pop the link also in the show notes, so you know where to join. And as always, Kevin, thank you so much. It's like, there's so much information and so much amazing content that you share here. And I really appreciate that. I know our listeners do too. And we can't wait for the next update.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I can't wait as well. And yeah, I'm sorry. I prepared a presentation for 8 hours today.
That's
45
perfect
minutes.
because we'll definitely come back to it.
I
Thank you
love it.
again.
Thank you so much. So great to be here.
Next part coming soon, listeners. And if you love this show as much as we love doing it for you, creating it for you, please make sure you leave us a review anywhere, any channel. If you're on Spotify or any other channels, on YouTube even, make sure you leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And again, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Bye for now.
To get more from Basic Bananas and to learn new ways to grow your business with clever marketing, visit basicbananas.com.